Hey all, my name is Jose Okondo. I'm a Chattanooga-based web designer and Webflow developer currently working at Whiteboard, a creative agency in my hometown. And in this video, we're talking about circle badges. I love designing circle badges. They're a lot of fun to work on, and they're even more fun to animate. So if you follow my screen here, you can see that as I scroll up and down, the lettering is rotating around the circle. And it's a play button. It's a lightbox component in Webflow. So when you click on it, it pulls up the video, which, by the way, is a tribute to a song that is constantly getting stuck in my head. Now, the cool thing about what we're going to learn in this video is that it doesn't apply just to this type of stuff, but I wanted to show you this website that we recently launched for another client, Climate Neutral at Whiteboard. I used the exact same strategy to animate this globe. Maybe not the plane in the clouds, but the kind of farm, Jeep, and TV station and factory all rotating around this globe, this planet, the Earth. It's all using the exact same strategy. So without further ado, let's jump into Webflow and start animating this lightbox. All right, so we're here in Figma, and we're going to break this up into two parts. So we're going to tackle kind of this inner button first, and then we're going to work on the kind of typographic slogan around it. By the way, I did notice that I misspelled spinned. That's just kind of life with me. I'm a miserable speller, and I was too lazy to edit it in Illustrator, and so here we are, we're rolling with spinned. Okay, so I've got three kind of 100 viewport height sections set to flex. And we're going to add a lightbox component. Let's hop over to the settings and add our video. And one thing I always recommend, and by the way, I did this by getting share, copying this, and then adding this to the URL. Always add question mark autoplay equals 1. So that question mark autoplay equals 1, what it does is when the user clicks on the lightbox component, if the browser allows it, it'll start auto-playing as soon as the modal opens. Not every browser will allow you to do that, but it just helps so that the user doesn't have to click twice to get the video open. I'm going to save that. And then we're going to add two elements in here, two div blocks nested inside of each other. And with the lightbox, let's call this spinned outer. Just poking a little fun at myself. And the innermost div block we'll call spinned inner. Alright, so this one's going to have some hard values, and then spinned outer is going to have some relative values. And by hard values, I mean it's going to be 88 pixels square. So the sizing of the element is really going to come from spinned inner. And because it's square, we can use 50% corner radius, and that is going to give us a perfect circle. Inside of spinned inner, let's add an embed. And this is just my preferred way of adding icons, but I'm just going to go to copy, copy as SVG. Sorry if you heard that, that's my dog getting comfortable. Alright, save and close. And with spinned inner, hop over to the navigator here. We've got HTML embed inside of spinned inner. We're going to set this to flex and align it in the middle. Now it's mathematically in the middle, but it looks like it's to the top and to the left a little bit. So there's two things that we need to do. One is we're going to give this a class and set it to flex. So if you look right here, there's just like a little bit of empty space below the icon. And by setting it to flex, we're just making sure that the bounding box is kind of like hugging the view box of the SVG. And the other thing is, like I said, it is mathematically in the middle, but it looks like it's leaning to the left because it's kind of like that optical illusion where there's so much visual weight on the left and so much white space on the right. It looks like it's on the left of the circle. So we just got to add about 3 pixels or so of padding, and now it looks like it's in the middle. With spinned outer, and remember there's 2 instances of it, we're going to add a border of 2 pixels are blue. Set it to 50%, just like our square, or sorry, spend inner. And about 4 pixels of padding. And now you can see why we have 2 instances of that. That just gives us that 2-track kind of look. I can't remember if I said, but I was going for like a vinyl record type of look. Okay, and that is pretty much the button. So if we click on that, just to double check, it is in fact playing. And like I said, we added that autoplay equals 1, and that makes the video play. All right, next up is the slogan. And personally, what I like to do is, if I hop in here, grab slogan, and spit it out there, I like to kind of like nest these things inside of a perfect circle, because if I highlight slogan, you'll notice that it's a tad bit narrower than it is tall, and it wouldn't really impact things too much, you know, in this example, but like in the example of climate neutral I showed you, you know, like the factory is way taller than the car, and so how are all these things rotating perfectly in line with the globe? It's because when I was exporting it, I had a circle encapsulating all of the content, so that no matter what content was inside of it is going to be rotating as a perfect circle. So if I just make sure everything is aligned, call this circle badge, and then set this to like 0%. If I export this as an SVG, it's still recognizing this bounding box out here, and so it's going to rotate in a perfect circle. Even if, for example, I decided I wanted to get rid of this for whatever reason, it's still a perfect circle, and so you spin me around would rotate around that play button in a circle. So anyways, I would export this, and I've already done that, but just showing you what it would look like. Export this as an SVG, and now we can add it here. So here it is, and I'm going to go ahead and move it up right there. And we're seeing some funky stuff going on, right? Like the slogan, the typographic badge, is blowing the whole layout up and warping the circles. So the easy fix is circle badge, give this a class, and make it position absolute. So now this spinned outer and everything nested inside of it is ignoring that circle badge exists, because spinned outer and everything in it is set to position static, and circle badge is set to position absolute. Once something is absolute, it is no longer in the box model, so to speak. It's kind of living outside of it in its own little world. And the cool thing is that when it's set to position absolute, it still positions itself like where it should be if it were obeying the box model. So you can kind of tell it's pinned to the top left corner of spinned outer. So we can use that to our advantage. Instead of using absolute positioning and doing the 50% top left and transform and all that stuff, all we have to do is set spinned outer to flex and align in the middle. And now our badge is in the middle, which is great. That was nice and easy. All right, and now we get to the part that we're all here for, which is animating this badge and rotating it. So I'm going to click on spinned outer, go to the animations tab, and my trigger is while scrolling in view. While this element is scrolling in view, I want something to happen. The nice thing about this particular trigger is it gives us a spectrum from 0 to 100%. And if we come out to animation boundaries, this is how we're defining what 0% is and what 100% is. This makes a little bit more sense when we're actually in here. So we're just going to skip that and come back to it in a second. Okay, so with circle badge selected, circle badge is the thing that I want to turn. I don't want to turn spinned outer or the arrow or anything else. It's the actual letter that I want to turn. So here at 0%, I'm going to add a rotate transform. And you can see from this list all of the different things that you can animate. Add a rotate. And we've got X, Y, and Z. And we definitely don't want to mess with X. You can see all the funky stuff it's doing. Or Y in this specific example. But we do want to mess with Z. And at negative 90%, this is like the top of the slogan. It's on the left-hand side. If I come down to the second stop, and I do 90 degrees, you can see that top of the slogan is on the right. All right, so what do these stops mean? If I click on Live Preview, you can kind of see that right when the badge starts to go above the viewport on the bottom, this little indicator is telling me how far into the viewport, percentage-wise, it is. So currently it's 3% into the viewport. And if it's about the middle of the screen, it's about 50%. And once it's fully eclipsed by the top of the viewport, it's 100%. So you can kind of see like, okay, now I understand while scrolling in view and what that means, why it's a spectrum. If we click on animation boundaries, we can even control what that 0% is. So instead of starts entering, if we use is fully visible, that means it won't start animating until the trigger, the element that's causing the animation, is fully in the viewport. And we can also change starts exiting or is fully invisible. Right now, we like these settings. Like I want it to animate as soon as it starts entering, like here. I don't want it to have a weird like jerk when it all of a sudden starts animating. I want it to start animating as soon as it's in. And I don't want it to stop animating when it hits the top of the viewport. I want it to keep animating until it is fully eclipsed. And that's what we have here. These are the default settings. For smoothing, I wanted to talk about that. That is in a sense like the ease and lag that this animation takes place in. So if I preview this, it's hard to tell because you're not the one scrolling, but when I scroll, it's kind of like a one-to-one thing. Like when I scroll and I stop scrolling on my mouse, the badge stops scrolling. But if I increase this pretty heavily to around 90%, you can just tell when I hit preview, it's going to wrap around. Even when I stop scrolling, it's still moving. So it's kind of like adding some easing to how this moves. And this just feels a little bit more natural and flowy, almost like parallax. Yeah, I like adding extra smoothing to this type of stuff. And then I also want to talk about trigger settings is good. Because we want this to trigger on all the different breakpoints. But I want to talk about element versus class. So right now, this animation is attached only to this specific element. Let's say I had another one up here. And I just deleted it, of course. But since this is attached to the element, this one is not going to spin, but this one will. But if I make it class, and the class is spinned outer, and by the way, you can click on this and change it. Now, both the top one and the middle one are going to spin. And I can control the animation for both in just one instance, which is really, really nice. All right, so that's actually it for this tutorial. This is probably one of my faster ones. Just wanted to do this fun little animation, and hopefully we'll do more animations in the future. But there's so much you can do with just this simple rotate. You can do something as complex as this. You can do something as simple as this. I hope that you enjoyed the video and that will be helpful to you in your future projects. Please subscribe and hit that bell so that you know when I upload future videos. Like I said, I think I'm going to do a series, a continuous series on animations, since that tends to be something that people struggle with. For my next one, we'll see if we can make it a bit more complex. And from there, who knows after that. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.